Okay, let's talk about the Khovansky coordinate system, or the CK42 coordinate system in Cyrillic, or the SK-42 coordinate system in English. Below me is a Soviet-era map, last updated 1972, that I liberated from a blown-to-bits Russian command post outside the town of Balakia in Kharkiv region. At the top left, you'll notice that it has the Khovansky coordinate system marked here as CK42. So what is CK42 and why is it important in the context of the current fighting in Ukraine? The CK42 system is the currently used coordinate system and used by both sides in the war, by both the Russians and the Ukrainian side. Now, this is important because on the Ukrainian side, you have a lot of, young guys that are interested in things like TAK, NATO standard stuff, TCCC, and so they're really digesting things like MGRS quite well. Now, the problem is they're interfacing with a lot of folks on the Ukrainian side, a lot of the senior officers, a lot of the senior staff NCOs that actually, fought in Soviet times, were members of the Soviet Army in the 1980s, or veterans of that time era who are used to what? The SK-42 coordinate system. Now, this is important because a lot of those guys will look at something like this map right here and compare it to things like TAK and say, guess what? You can't hack a map. And so a lot of the younger guys are coming up against this resistance in the Ukrainian army today, or the ZSU. Now, this is important because the older guys aren't going to change their coordinate system for the younger guys that are up front, that are using things like Kropova, things like TAK, etc. So there's a translation that needs to take place, or a transition. Now, Vertex Geospatial out of Rome, New York, has actually done a great job out of incorporating the SK-42 in their version of TAK, which is available if you work through Vertex Geospatial in their version of what they are calling UkrTAK, which is a flavor of TAK that is one of their product lines. So how is this actually displayed in TAK? So right here, we are looking at a map of Ukraine in TAK. We're looking at the Google map, the Google hybrid version. I'm going to place my GPS right here, somewhere in Kharkiv Oblast. And as you can see at the bottom right, we've got the MGRS coordinate system right here, which TAK usually comes with. But as we tap through our grid systems, we've got lat longitude, degrees, lat longitude, degrees, minutes, lat longitude, degrees, minutes, seconds, UTM, and then finally we have the SK-42 system as produced by Vertex Geospatial in their UkrTAK flavor. Bear in mind, this is available in their flavor of TAK. However, you can get the SK-42 system separately in a plugin called the BNG plugin, which is British National Grid, but you can get it as a add-on to the plugin, if that makes sense. The important thing to realize in there is that Ukraine is actually split into two different portions of the SK-42. There's Eastern Ukraine, and then there's Western Ukraine. So if you notice, the reason why all these digits are much longer up in here is when I switch from the east to the west, is that in Western Ukraine, it's a different datum than from the east. So this is what you should be seeing. Now, one of the things that should immediately stand out to you about the SK-42 grid system is that the eastings and the northings are actually switched. So the easting comes first, the easting east is first, the northing north is second, separate from how we would do it in MGRS or lat long. Now, the important thing is it's actually still red, right and up, or down the corridor, up the stairs, and I'll show you what that looks like. So if we zoom in here, I'm going to give you a live example of this. So if we look at the area that this map represents, this is on the Russian-Ukrainian border. This is the town of Vovchansk, I believe. My Cyrillic is pretty terrible. And then this is the town of Mohram over here, or Myrom. So Volchansk, I've spotted it here on TAK. I'm going to get my red X tool right here. And if we notice how the SK-42 lines up is it's not in the first 2 digits. This represents the grid zone designator, most likely. I'm not even in a, I'm definitely not an expert at the SK-42. But if we notice, if we place at the intersection of the town of Volchansk, our red X is displaying after the first 2 digits. It says 53 and then 73. If we move over here to Volchansk, 53 on the 53 easting line right here between 52, well 54, 53 would right be in the middle. And then 73, if we go down to 74, 72, so 70, 53, 73 would be approximately in the middle, will be in the middle of this grid square, which is close to where our red X is to that intersection in the southern part of Volchansk. The river here is the Severodonetsk River, which, if you were paying attention to the war last year, this was a very strategically important river that the Russians tried to cross. Now, if we want to go over here to do another correction, if we go to the city of Murom, we put our red X on the city, and we've got 36 after the 73, and then 77 after the 55. So let's go over here to 36, and then 77, which would be in the middle, and that intersects right around there, the middle of this grid line right here. So that's 36, 77. The important takeaways that we need to focus on here are that, not everybody uses MGRS, not everybody uses lat long. So we can't come into this with a mindset of saying, hey, we want to help Ukraine and we want to give, the ZSU, the territorial defense, all these great gadgets. Well, you can give them things like TAK, but unless it's showing the systems that they're using, which is the SK-42 system, unless it's showing that or configured for that, you're going to have a hard time adapting that equipment for their use. And that's why Vertex Geospatial comes in here and has done an excellent job of creating the SK-42 system inside TAK. And what I mean by that is inside the program where you can actually cycle through all the different coordinate varieties in here. That way, Ukrainians can have either their MGRS or their lat long or their SK-42 all at the same time. Thank you all for watching. I hope you learned a little bit about the SK-42 coordinate system and about how we can actually display this in ATAK along with the reality of the current war that is going on.